Hey, welcome everyone to the Cultivating Compassion Education Series, sponsored by Compassionate Care ALS. We have with us today Dr. Julie Brown Yao, who is one of our dear friends and colleagues, and we'll be talking today about shock in the system, supporting the body and nervous system after an ALS diagnosis and beyond. Uh, Dr. Julie is an expert in the field of healing complex trauma. She specializes in the resolution of relational, complex, and intergenerational trauma. She's a master neuroaffect relational model practitioner and an authorized teacher of the Sri Vidya tradition. Using a unified approach, Julie's work addresses the challenging psychobiological dynamics of trauma and includes the latest neuroscientific findings, contemplative and somatic psychologies. She supports those who are living with ALS by addressing the multi-layered impact of a terminal illness diagnosis and the complexities that emerge. So welcome, Julie. We'll turn it over to our founder and CEO, Ron Hoffman, for a few minutes to say hello and talk about Julie. Welcome, Ron.
Yeah, thank you, James. Thank you, Julie, for being here. Excuse my voice. Seems like a cold has found me finally. Um, Grateful for all of you showing up today, and likewise, Julie, for spending time with us today. Uh, Julie and I go back many, many years, 20 some years. Uh, she has been instrumental in supporting many of our families during those years in an incredibly powerful way. Uh, I would invite you to be open to what she is sharing. I would invite you to take a sip, and it's my hope that you can take away some meaningful nuggets from her conversation that she's going to have with us. So, with that, again, thank you all for being here. Julie, I'm going to send it right over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, so much. And thank you, James. And hello, everybody, and welcome. Just looking at the faces and see who's on the call today. So, hi, everyone. Okay, so most of us move through life assuming that tomorrow is going to look somewhat like today, that we might wake up and make plans around work and family or imagine the future. But as you know, sometimes what we thought we knew gets interrupted. There are moments that divide time. There is the life before the words were spoken, and there's a life after the words were spoken. For many of you, you may have been in a doctor's office or an exam room, someone sitting opposite you reading the results. The air might have become very quiet. Perhaps it felt like the air disappeared. And perhaps you heard these words, but your body didn't fully register them. Okay. When a diagnosis like ALS is spoken, something really profound happens in the human system. The nervous system registers shock. Now, shock is not any kind of weakness, of course. It's not any kind of denial. It's actually the body or the nervous system's ancient intelligence responding to something that is completely overwhelming in the moment. Now, your body may have gone numb. You may have got really tense. Your body may have braced with the impact of hearing these words. You may have completely disconnected, or your mind might have gone racing off into the future in catastrophe. Families, of course, feel the shock too. Partners, children, and of course, community to varying degrees. It's as if a huge stone gets thrown into the middle of the lake. The stone, of course, is the ALS diagnosis. The lake is our life. And then these ripples just keep moving outwards. And the ripples are very disruptive, right? Sometimes they can feel devastating. And they move through the body, they move through the heart, they move through relationship, and they move through time. And so in our gathering today, we're going to address those ripples. Okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to share a number of exercises to help you work with that shock that the body takes in with the ALS diagnosis. And quite often beyond the ALS diagnosis, we keep getting more shocks. And that shock can stay in our body and stay in our nervous system until we learn how to address it and have it released. And sometimes we don't even know it's still there. So we're going to be working with the nervous system and finding ways to regulate our nervous system. So let me speak a little bit about the nervous system before we do this. So we want to have our nervous system, for the most part, in a state of balance. But when we get a shock to our system, like an ALS diagnosis, it goes into what we're going to call a hyper-aroused state. And I'm going to keep this quite simple for our talk today. When we're in a hyper-aroused state, we're in a survival mode, and the body becomes tense. The body is preparing to maybe run or to fight away from whatever it is that's shocked us in our system. But of course, we're not running and we're not fighting to get to safety. But that energy that wanted to do that to keep us safe remains in the body and keeps us in this high aroused state of survival. Or the impact is so severe that the nervous system drops way down and we go into a state of freeze, like a deep freeze and disconnection. So where the body's numb and we really can't feel anything. And so we can stay in this really hypo-aroused state or in this up high aroused state. And neither one of those states is good for us to stay in very long. But unless we address the shock directly, the likelihood is it stays in our system somehow. What I'm going to give you today is techniques to come back to this state of balance. And this state of calmness is where the body can rest and digest or rest and relax. It's also a place of restoration. And so we always want to be able to, throughout the day, and especially at evening when we go to sleep, to be in this place of calmness and rest and relaxation. But many of us aren't because there's this continual feeling of an impact in our body that we haven't been able to resolve. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. If it's not resolved, if we stay in this hyper-aroused state, the body tends to be tense. It would tend to be contracted. So the chest area, really where we feel our emotions, where our emotional center is, stays closed. So then it becomes really more difficult to connect to ourselves, which is first and foremost so important. But it also makes it more difficult to connect to others, to our family, to our friends, to the environment. And it's really more difficult to feel these healthy emotions that we want to feel, like gratitude, calmness, steadfastness, acceptance, love, joy, right? Those are always available to us in the moment when we're present with the body and the nervous system is in a state of calm. We want to see if we can cultivate that. If we're still in this tight, contracted state, then it's going to be very difficult to feel any of those. And it's going to be very difficult for our body to move towards any kind of healing or restoration that might be possible for us. So I'm going to jump in straight away so we can do some exercises so you can have a taste of what this is going to feel like. Now, there are many stages of ALS, as we know. And so the exercise that I give are not going to be appropriate for everybody along the different stages of ALS. So I'm going to give a variety of exercises to do and a variety of options, okay? So we're going to use some tools that are available to us, which is our breath. Our breath is very powerful for being able to regulate the nervous system. Now, obviously, along the ALS journey, it might feel more difficult to work with breath. So we also have our imagination. Our imagination is a really powerful tool. There's so much research out there in the world today looking at how what we imagine, parts of the brain don't know isn't real. And so the body responds accordingly, feeling like what we're imagining is actually happening. And we'll get a little bit more into that as I tell you the exercises. We also have touch. So if we can use our hands to touch ourselves, like I'm going to show you in a couple of the exercises, it's incredibly powerful, and I'll tell you why. Now, sometimes we know if we have ALS, you maybe not be able to move the hands. And so we'll have options for that. What would be very wonderful is if there's somebody with you over time, maybe not today, that can help you with these exercises, that can maybe put their hands on your body if you have ALS and help regulate your system with you. One of the strongest nervous system regulators or stabilizers that we have is co-regulation. Co-regulation means regulating your system with another person. Now, if we do that, we want both parties, or at least one party, to be able to be regulated themselves. So some of the exercises that we're going to do very shortly, right? You would calm yourself and then maybe work with your partner or a friend who may have ALS who can't do the movement, right? If your nervous system is calm, the other person, whoever you're with, and this goes throughout life, so it's just good information to have anyway. If your nervous system is calm and you walk in a room and you're with somebody, their nervous system is going to respond to your nervous system. And this all happens under conscious awareness. It's called neuroception. So you walk into a room, and if you're sort of uptight and tense and your nervous system is highly aroused, that other person that you're with isn't necessarily going to be perceiving safety. They may respond and get tense and tight too. So whenever we're visiting our friends or our friends with ALS or even people with ALS, right, we want to have that nervous system calm so our nervous systems can work with one another. So in this state of co-regulation, the nervous system can really downshift to this place of calm and restoration, where we can really connect with ourselves and one another and leave ourselves open to the possibility of restoration. So the first exercises that we're going to do is very, very simple. So I'd like you to all join me as I speak about them, and I'll lead us through them. I'm not going to do them for as long as would be the most beneficial, but these are very easy to remember. This is also being recorded, so you can always come back to this and learn them. And then you have a toolbox to self-regulate yourself, meaning to come back to the moment, to come back to the present, right? To come out of an emotional shock or too much emotional overwhelm. You'll always have these tools to bring you back to center, back to the present, back to the moment. Okay, so I invite you all just to be aware of your body in this moment. Just taking in like your baseline of where you are right now. Do you feel tight? Do you feel numb? Do you feel calm? Do you feel open? Do you feel a little disconnected and agitated? We're just really just taking a baseline of where you're at. There's no right or wrong to this. And now I'd like you to all imagine that you have this energetic boundary like an eggshell all around you. This is your personal energetic boundary that we all have. This is measurable. And the more you visualize it or sense it, just using your imagination that it's there all around you, front, back, above, below, the stronger it gets. And it's actually very important that we have this energetic boundary. So see if you can imagine it, feel it, sense it as I'm talking. The more you visualize it, the more you sense it, the stronger it becomes. And what we know when we have our energetic boundary intact, the body will feel a little bit safer. I'm just going to give you a few more seconds to really feel, imagine that boundary. And you can make it gold light, white light. You can make it with knights in shining armor, whatever you like. And now just notice your body. The shifts should be very subtle, but they should be palpable. And again, if you don't feel it right away, you might feel it over time as you practice. But just see if your body feels a little more relaxed or a little safer. And now from this place in your energetic boundary, I want you to relax your eyeballs. So you just focus on your eyeballs. You can have your eyes open or closed, whatever feels best for you. And just imagine your eyes just relax back into the socket. Again, as you're relaxing your eyes, just notice if there's any very subtle shifts in your body. And then if you have your eyes open, closed, open them. And just have this very soft gaze out into your environment, into your room. So you're not focusing directly onto the computer. Let your gaze go wide. So you're taking in the room, the periphery of the room at the edges. So when we're in a state of shock, the mind tends to really focus, our awareness focuses and narrows. So when we widen it like this, with soft eyes, we're letting the nervous system know there's no current danger. There's no danger right now. And the nervous system or your body should respond. Maybe your breath deepens a little bit. So again, just notice. And don't worry if you don't notice anything yet. Sometimes it can take a little practice. Soft eyes, soft gaze, sitting in your boundary, just noticing the periphery of the room. And you can move your head gentle. If you can't move your head, you just soften your eyes and you move your eyes a little bit. Okay. Our next exercise, we're going to work with sound. Sound in a form of vibration affects what we call the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve innervates our face and our throat and our chest, our heart, our lungs, our diaphragm, and actually all the way down to the belly. So when we make this vibratory sound, I'm going to give to you in a moment, it's like giving that nerve a gentle massage. In all of the places that it innervates, meaning where it goes into the muscles, there's going to be a very slight relaxation. You may or may not feel it everywhere. Sometimes people just feel a very slight softening, a little tingling. They might take a deeper breath. They might just feel like some opening in the chest. Now, to make this sound, we're going to use the breath, and not everybody's going to be able to use the breath in this way. So there was also some research done on this sound, and the research was actually done on the sound Om. You don't have to say that sound. You can do Voo. You can do Ah, whatever feels better for you. But no, if you can't use your voice and you can't use your breath for this, the research showed that just by thinking it, I'm thinking Om, you get equivalent results. Okay. But those of you who can use your breath, I encourage you to do that. But also know if you need to calm yourself and you're in an environment where it's really not appropriate to making these sounds and you don't want to, you can do it silently and you might notice some downshift in this sort of upregulated, tighter, or numbing state. Okay. I'll do it with you. When you take a deep breath in, don't strain yourself. And when you're exhaling slowly with this sound, don't strain yourself. And we're going to do it 3 times. And I'm going to use the sound Om, just because that's my favorite. Again, you can do Voo. Voo is good because we use the muscles of the mouth. And the muscles of the mouth have to do with social engagement. Social engagement, again, it's where we connect with another. When we connect with another, right, it's helpful for our nervous system. So just engaging these muscles in the face by going ooh helps with that. Okay. All right. Exhaling. And if you're using the breath, take a nice big deep breath in. Again, one more nice big deep breath in. And then one more. And when you're done, just pay attention to your body. Bring awareness back to your body. And again, just notice if there's a subtle shift, if something might have softened, then any tingling, if your shoulders or face feel a little bit more relaxed. And again, this is something that you might want to do over time, right? A few times a day. You might not always feel an immediate result, but often people do. Okay. The next exercise has to do with touch. When we place our hands on the body, right, in a gentle, purposeful, intentional way, and we can do it over our clothing, it still works. If you're able to, when you're on your own or with another, and you can actually put your hands on your skin, it's even more powerful because it touches the seed textile fibers of the nervous system in a deeper way. And the body really likes this soothing touch. And it also stimulates oxytocin, which is a self-soothing or bonding hormone, right? That releases gently, which tells the body it's calm. Now, if you can't move your arms and hands and you can't self-touch, this is where co-regulation, if you have another person that can do this with you, is really powerful. Again, co-regulation, doing it with somebody else, is a great stabilizer of the nervous system. So, of course, you both be in agreement to do this. So let's try it right now on ourselves if you can. Otherwise, you use your imagination and imagine that you're doing it. So one hand on the chest and one hand on the belly. And another variation, if it feels more comfortable for you, would be a hand on the forehead or a hand on the cheek. Sometimes that feels really soothing and comforting. But just see where you'd like to have your hands right now. And I'd like you to feel like a very, very slight pressure. Feel the contact of your hand on your body. And if your hands are warm, feel the warmth. Sometimes the hands might be cold, feel the coolness. But you're really feeling this contact. The body likes contact, and when there's contact that's calming, it will begin to calm. And then just stay here for a moment, focused on the connection of your hands to your heart and your hands to your belly. And if one feels better than the other, you can maybe focus on that placement. Or if one hand aches, right, you could bring them both to your belly. So it's really about being comfortable as you do this. So we're really affecting the nerve fibers. We're sending signals of safety to the body when we do this. Right? So if the body's still holding on to shock from the ALS diagnosis, or really any shock that you've had in your life that hasn't been addressed and may still be in your system, and we don't always know it, right? This begins to send small messages to your body. Hey, it's safe now. I'm here. So you can even be saying to yourself very quietly, I'm here. I'm here now. Keep doing this, keep feeling this, right, as I'm speaking. So often when an ALS diagnosis comes, if we're very fortunate, we'd have somebody sitting next to us whose nervous system would be calm, who'd look us in the eyes with absolute compassion and a softness in their face, and maybe hold us through that shock and hold us through that fear or hold us through that numbness or whatever came up. And in those moments, right, the shock would be gently moving out of our nervous system because there's another person there giving us what our body or our nervous system really needed. But quite often that doesn't happen. And whoever we may be with, if we were with somebody, is also experiencing that shock too, right? So we have whoever's hearing the diagnosis, everybody's in this, hyper-regulated state, feeling this shock. So we want to keep coming back to our system, no matter how long after the fact, and saying, hey, I am here. Softening our own eyes, giving ourselves that hug. Or remember, in agreement, we can give it to somebody else. And then feeling the breath. And then you can add on. So we could just do this, or we could also do the woo, while also softening the eyes. Right? So you don't just do one at a time, you can do them all at once as you learn them and take them in and find which ones you can do and what works for you. All right, so we can let that go. You can put your hands there or keep them there if you like. And just notice a moment from the baseline, from the beginning of our talk to now, what might have shifted. Just check in with your body. Does something feel slightly softer? Is there less anxiety? Is there less tension? Do you feel a little bit more? What's going on in your own body and nervous system? And again, there's nothing right or wrong. There's your experience. This next exercise we're going to work with the breath. Now, if you're having trouble with your breathing, don't do this one. Imagine it, right? Or do one of the other exercises that you've just taught that is easy for you. Often when we have a shock and we can go into like a sense of collapse, and this brings us out of the collapse, and it's actually working with the lungs and the collapse and the fibers there. It's going to rebound them so we can get a little bit more breath. So I'll show you it first. We take a nice big deep breath in. And at the end of the inhale, we're going to take an extra sip. It's going to look like this. I'm exaggerating the put in with, okay, but just to show you what to do. So it's a nice inhale in. And that extra inhale, and then long, slow exhale out the mouth. Okay. We're going to do this 3 times. Again, don't do it if you're having any kind of trouble breathing. Okay. We will do it together. We'll do it 3 times. One other thing, be aware of your body. So when you take the deep breath in, don't be going, okay? No, keep your shoulders down, maybe keep them soft. Take the breath in, and then the last sip. Try not to do this, just, okay? All right, everybody exhale, and then doing it on your own. Nice breath in. Okay, when you finish that, again, just notice, did you like it? Did you not like it? What are the results on your body? Do you feel a little calmer? So when we do this, we send messages to the parasympathetic nervous system, again, to calm. Okay. Next exercise, again, using the breath. If you can't use your breath, you don't do this. You can imagine it, or you can do one of the other exercises. So it's called box breathing. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, inhale for 4 seconds, hold it, exhale, hold it, inhale. So 4 seconds for each. An alternative, if you're struggling a little with your breath, you can inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. So that would be an alternate if you're uncomfortable doing the box breathing. So we'll do this for a little while. So on your own, whenever you're ready, we'll begin with an inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and go ahead on your own rhythm. Nice and slow, nice and gentle, not straining in any way. Okay, when you're ready, complete that breath. And again, pay attention to your own body. Just bringing awareness to different places and just notice any subtle changes. As simple as these exercises are, they're really powerful. What I've noticed in the, almost 40 years of working with people in the biology and nervous system is that people forget the simplest yet most powerful exercises. You know, okay, I'm going to do another exercise. This one is, again, we're going to use touch. It's self-touch, and the hands will be like this. And we're going to do this rhythm. It's a nice, calm, slow rhythm. And again, if you're unable to use your own hands and arms for this, you can, with permission, of course, do it to the person with ALS, right? And you'd put your hands lightly on the upper chest, and we're going to do this nice, slow rhythm, right? And this bilateral stimulation, again, evokes a sense of calmness. But what this is especially good for is if we have an emotional overwhelm, we hear some other news or something else happens, right? And we just get flooded with emotion. We don't want to disconnect from that emotion. We don't want to shut that emotion down. But if we have our hands here and we start to do this gentle tapping and maybe a slow exhale, right? If we need that calming, this allows that emotion to gently move through us, right? While being able to contain it. Self-containment is really good with emotion, right? And not getting overstimulated or overwhelmed. So let's just practice it together right now. It's just this simple, nice, gentle rhythm called butterfly tapping. It's a nice name. And don't forget to breathe as you're doing it. And don't forget that you're sitting on a chair or on a bed, and that's supporting you as you do it. So as you're doing this, also let your body get a little heavier. Let yourself be supported. And you can see if you like the rhythm really slow or a little faster. But again, remember this one when there's any kind of emotional overwhelm, you know, or if you're a caregiver of any sort, right, and you're with your loved one with ALS, or your friend, or your patient, or whoever it is you're taking care of, remember, and they're getting overwhelmed, you can do this with them. It's really helpful. You can stand beside them, behind them, right? You guys are creative. You could work out how to do it. Again, notice how your body feels after that. Look around the room a little bit if you can. Or just let your eyes soften and look around the room. Right. And then come back to yourself. Okay, one more exercise. So this exercise, we're going to be finding a place in the body that feels somewhat nice. Right? So after these exercises, hopefully you can all feel somewhere in the body that feels a little relaxed, a little soft, a little safe, at the very least, less nicer than anywhere else. So go ahead and be aware of your body, sort of look around and focus on somewhere in your body that feels nice, right? It could be a foot, it could be your belly, it could be your chest, it could be your face, it could be your eyes. And now, look for that place in your body that might be holding tension. It could be the belly, it could be the chest, it could be your shoulders, it could be your eyes, it could be your fists, just one place in your body that's holding tension. And we're going to do what's called pendulation, meaning we're going to go from the place of tension, to the place of, I'm just going to say softness. I'm going to stay in the place of softness, and then we're going to go to the place of tightness or tension. And what this is doing, as you do it in practice, going back and forth, it's allowing your system to know you can actually hold two feelings at once. So if we hear some news or we're having a day and it's a really tense day and our body is tight, that we don't have to just stay in that. We can actually go, okay, I can regulate my nervous system a little bit. I can do some tapping or some breath work or some imagination work, some sound work. And I can actually find a place that softens in my body. And if I can focus on that, and then I can feel the tension and then I can feel the softness. Because the tension doesn't always go away right away, right? We wish it would, but sometimes it stays. But we don't have to just stay in the tension. By going back and forth, we can be with both. And so the nervous system doesn't stay in a survival state, but deactivates a little bit more towards calmness. Okay, so we'll practice now so you get a sense of it. Go ahead, focus on your soft place in the body, or the softest place you can find. And just feel into it for a moment. Maybe you can use your imagination a little bit. Maybe there's like honey and being poured onto it, or warm water to really help with that softness. Let that soft place really be soft. And now let's go to that place where there might be some tension. And you're just simply going to be aware of it. Going back to the place of softness. And then going back to the place of tension. And just notice both can be here, but you're just focusing on one. And back to the softness. And all of these exercises, so you can let that go now. All of these exercises were actually strengthening the immune system response. They've been proven to deactivate inflammation. Right? If we're in a fear spiral, meaning we get fearful about something and our mind is rushing off into the future, or the body's contracting, doing any of these exercises is going to take us out of that spiral and begin to regulate the nervous system and allow us to come back out of it. It's going to soften that chest area, right, where we can connect to ourselves and connect to others, where we can cultivate different emotions, right, in that connection, like joy, right? We focus on joy when the heart is calm, or gratitude, or love, or calmness, or acceptance. When we're in a deactivated state, the nervous system, and focus on these emotions, we can create them in the body. Right? And in the moment, we're okay. There's a metaphor that a lot of traditions use about uncertainty, because often in the ALS journey, we're living in a state of uncertainty. And that uncertainty can be frightening, right? But if we are more in the moment, right, that uncertainty isn't so scary. So the image is a lantern being held by you while you're in darkness. So you imagine yourself in the night sky, and all you have is a lantern that's nice and bright, that's lighting up about 3 feet all around you. And with that light from the lantern, the 3 feet you can stay and see in front of you, you can begin to take steps, right? And that's all we need to really see is 3 steps in front of us. And when we do that, we can stay connected to the moment. We can stay connected to our body. We can stay connected to presence, right? Where the body's going to be in a healthier state, more potentializing any capacity for healing. Now, this doesn't mean we ignore the future, right? Or we ignore decisions that have to be made about the future. Of course, those always have to be taken into consideration. But if we can make those decisions and look at choices when we're in the moment, in the light of just this 3-foot circumference, we're going to be able to make those decisions with much more clarity and calmness. Okay. I'm going to share one more way that we can work directly with shock in the nervous system. And I can't do it in a big group because when I do it with, a person or 1 or 2 people, it's based on that person's time. We're going to use the imagination, but I think it's a really good story to share. One of our lovely families at CCALS, I worked with this with one of the ladies just recently, and it was really, really wonderful experience. And she said I could share the story that this just happened recently. So we were looking at shock in her nervous system, shock in the body, how it, tightens the body, even if we're not aware of it. She became aware of it as we started to speak about it. So we went back to the moment of diagnosis, where she was, and we slowed it right down. And I said, okay, so you're in that doctor's office and you hear those words, pause the image now, notice your body. And of course, she could feel her body tense up and the tension kind of leaving a little bit, all of that uncertainty, just very, very, very frightening and unpleasant experience for her. And I said, okay, listen to your body right now. If you could do anything, what would you do? And she paused, felt her body, and she said, I want to run. And I said, okay, in your imagination, of course, let's run. The eyes closed, she started to see herself run. And now what's important in these exercises, because maybe you'll do it yourself, maybe you'll do it with another, maybe you'll do it with me, is that you feel your body as you're imagining. So she ran and ran and ran, and she's feeling her body, and she's feeling as if she's running, and her legs are moving. She's feeling the whole thing. And I say, run to wherever you would like to be, whatever the safest place you'd like to get to be is. So she runs to a forest, and she gets to a forest, and she gets to this beautiful big tree, and she's done enough running, and she sits down in the pine needles underneath this tree. And she can smell the pine needles, and she can feel the tree supporting her. Right? And so she stays there, and she focuses on her body being held by the tree. And we use all of our senses. So if you're not visual, it doesn't matter. You'd smell the trees, you'd know where you were, you'd sense it with the other senses of your body. Right? And then she could sense a deer approach. And she got eye contact with this beautiful deer with those beautiful brown, loving, soft eyes. And that gaze helped her soften even more, right, in the forest under this tree that she was leaning against that was holding her. And she could just feel her nervous system shifting down, down, down. And then I said, "Are you ready to leave yet?" And she said, "No." I said, "Stay right there." So she stayed there until her body and her nervous system said, "I feel okay now." Like the shock is gone, the tension released. I feel safe enough to leave, to come back to my living room. So she came back, she felt her body, she felt the softness, the dampness of the tears in her eyes. Okay? A very, very powerful way using our imagination to release that shock of the nervous system, because often we want to run. These are normal responses of our nervous system, right? In a shock, in a fright, in trauma, we want to run. We want to fight because it's just been a boundary violation. We didn't want that coming into our system, right? But of course, there's nothing to actually physically fight, but we get the energy to do it. Or we freeze in the moment. Like we can move our eyes, but like, we can't do anything. What do I want to do? Or we disconnect right into this deeper state of shutdown. Whatever experience that you may have experienced in any kind of shock on this journey or other times in your life, when we imagine it, and this is usually good to do with another person, right, guiding you. When you feel that, we can ask the body what needs to be done. If you need anything, what is it? If we're often it can be running or fighting, and you can imagine that. You can imagine yourself screaming, whatever you want, right? But you feel your body, and then you get to a safe place. You let yourself feel that safe place. You stay there till you're done, and then you come back to the room, feel your body, and you can open your eyes, right? If you're really numb, right, you might need a hug. So you imagine the safest person in the world. It doesn't have to be a real person. It could be an angel. It could be, a mythological figure, a religious figure, and you imagine being held and rocked and soothed. Remember, the body doesn't always know what you're imagining isn't true. Really, really powerful exercises. People forget. Please don't forget them. Remember the ones that you can. They'll be recorded. They're simple, but they're powerful, and they'll build upon one another and are deeply affecting your nervous system and your capacity to heal and potentializing any kind of healing that might be possible, right? We know there's some research out there. I can't remember the doctor's name. Ron will mention it when I'm done in a few moments and we open it up for questions. But he has about, Dr. Debnam, I think, he has about 60 something cases of people who have had a reversal in ALS. Now, everything that I know about ALS, I can tell you it's not going to happen if you're in a hyper aroused state in a survival mode or shut down and disconnected. But if your nervous system is in a state of balance, rest, relaxation, rest and digest, place of restoration, then we're going to potentialize any potential that you in your life might have for that. All right. And with all of that said, I think we're going to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions about anything that I've shared today or any comments.
Julie was speaking of Dr. Richard Bedlack,
Bad luck. Thank you.
and what I know, and I'm trying to think of Aaron's last name. Is it Aaron Zazoff? He's a gentleman living with ALS on the West Coast, and he has found a new way of doing this, a new way of living with ALS. And like many others that we've known over the years, it's how do we learn to live life differently? So these exercises Julie has shared with us, it's something different for many of us. And yet, for those people who've had the willingness, the capacity to try uh, and to find different ways of navigating their lives, to be able to find that place of calm, the potentiality increases tenfold in how we live our life and how things will potentially unfold for us. We've seen it. There's a conversations with Ron on our website with Rainier DeBeer. And Julie worked with Ren. And it's just pretty extraordinary that he was one of the people that we've known over the years that ALS in many ways transformed his life. And because he found a way to tap into something that maybe wasn't there for him before. So these exercises can be incredibly powerful. Just have a sip, just a little sip and see what unfolds. And likewise, for many, if you're interested, you can reach out to James. We can connect you with Julie in regards to her schedule. Julie works with many of our people. Anyway.
Thanks, Ron. If you would like to go deeper with particularly this last piece that Julie was speaking about, you can email me, james@ccals.org, and we can get you connected with Julie. But any questions at all, you can type into the chat or just raise your hand. We do have a comment from Kira saying, "This was beautiful. Thank you very much. Will we be able to share the recording with others who weren't able to attend today?" The answer to that, of course, is yes, absolutely. That recording will be on our website, ccals.org, under Resources, Educational Library, and you'll see it down there.
And obviously, all of what Julie was sharing is as relevant for the caregiver, other family members. It's, people are diagnosed, and I've always said it's an incredibly traumatic experience, and that for many people that have maybe a lack of awareness of just how traumatic it is. So what do we do with this? And these are exercises. Actually, there is something that can be done. And even if it feels a little awkward at first, like breathing exercises, meditation was incredibly awkward for me. But these are tools that have been proven to work. I know that to be true.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. A couple more comments. Carol says this was wonderful. Gail says this couldn't have come at a better time for me. It has been incredibly helpful. Thank you so very much. Carol says the newest things for me were the touching exercises, which were very powerful. And Dee says, my son was diagnosed with ALS recently. I found this helpful for us and for him. Thank you. So yeah, you're all very welcome, of course. And Julie, I had one quick question, if I might.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's a way for people when they find themselves in a state of overwhelm or perhaps confusion, or just really feeling that the sort of the presence of as Ron likes to say, the uninvited guest of ALS. How do you remember that you have these tools? Sometimes they seem to disappear.
Well, we don't want to wait until the worst moments to practice these. All of these exercises can be practiced when you wake up in the morning just to give the body a bathe in something very nice. You can wake up in the morning and do oh, avu, and it's bathing your body, your nervous system in something that's really, really pleasant, right? And so the more that we do it throughout the day, just because we can, the more likely you're going to remember in the moments when you get hit with that emotional overwhelm or hear some news that's really disturbing, that you'll remember that you have these tools. But also practicing them at any time, practicing them even when you feel good, right, is actually strengthening your nervous system and creating resilience in your nervous system, which means it has more capacity to feel, right? And we always want to be able to feel, even though sometimes we think we don't want to. If something comes up and we push it down, it's still there. So by doing these exercises in good moments and not so good moments, right, we're building up capacity to feel more, so those feelings can move through us in a way where we're not overwhelmed.
Thank you, Julie. That's helpful. So Carol asks about the recording. It's going to be on our website under resources. So ccals.org, and then go to the resources tab, and the first thing is educational library. And if you scroll down there, you'll see Julie's picture in the recording.
Yeah, be under the speaker series.
And Bill has a question here. Can the nervous system tension manifest itself in various ways? I feel like I have a fever, but actually don't. I feel as sick as having the fever.
Yeah, it can do. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that just the mind manifesting these symptoms, or how does that work?
Well, I don't know if it's the mind manifesting symptoms when we're in a state of shock or the deep, big high arousal or uh, survival mode. There can be all kinds of symptoms that show up on the body. So, it's always good to get symptoms checked out by your doctor, but if you try these exercises and it starts to make a difference, right, then that's going to be helpful in letting you know it could be because you're riding on this survival mode and tension and you don't even know. Does that answer the question? Let me know if it doesn't, but
Yeah, that answers. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Ellen says this was beautiful, a gift. Thank you. Um, we're about ready to wrap up. Do you have any final thoughts to share, Julie or Ron?
I would just say to really emphasize the co-regulation,
Mhm.
right? So doing it before you see somebody with ALS, if you're a caregiver, working on yourself so your nervous system is really calm, or within the family system, do these exercises together so everybody's nervous system, right, begins to regulate. And that way you all come into the same space, or let's say there's one person who's really upset and one person who's not. The nervous systems are going to balance, and the one who's calm is going to help regulate the other person. Right? So it's so important, right? And even though we might not know that people, we can be really tight and tense, but we can put a smile on our face and we can kind of fake it. The other person's nervous system, you're not faking that. The nervous system of the other person is going to feel right into you, and they're not going to feel safe, and they're not going to feel relaxed. They may know it or not know it, but if you go into a room with other people and you are calm and you're relaxed and you're centered and you're open, that's an invitation for everybody else in the room for their nervous system to
Mhm.
just downregulate. And so communication, openness, connection, this is what we all want. This is what we're wired for as human beings. And is an invitation to be in the present moment where we're safe can happen.
Mhm.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, co-regulation. Many of you have heard me talk about co-caring for one another, and it's the same thing. I mean, for those of you who have a significant other, um, I mean, you were in this together, and obviously everyone doesn't have the capacity to show up as well as everybody else. I mean, we have life stories, but to listen to Julie's words about that co-regulation, that's part of co-caring for one another. To be able to walk into a space and find some calm. Um, you guys are living with this 24/7. Energetically, you're in the field. And so this is work that can help, uh, bring and extend that calm. So I really, really invite you to have a big gulp of this. You know, it works. I know that to be true. It's just, uh, it's not even taking a risk. It's just trying something that might be out of my comfort zone because maybe people think I look odd breathing like this. No, 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 no. And all of this, I think that Julie is sharing comes from all sorts of world traditions that have been going on for eons. And I'm just grateful, Julie, the work that you do and what you can bring to our community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And this is all science too. This isn't something
Thank
that,
you.
this is all valid scientific understanding of how to calm a nervous system, right? In very simple ways. But again, don't put them aside because they're so simple. Very powerful tools.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for showing up. It's
Thank you,
lovely.
everybody. Thank you, James.
Thank you all. Beautiful, Julie. Appreciate it. We'll catch you later, everyone.